Welcome to Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Anna Scheller, and it is my mission to help you unleash your power so that you can make more sales, make more money, and live the life of your dreams. You can find me at annascheller.com. That's Anna with two N's, Scheller, SCHELLER.com. You can learn more about me, how I got into this business, and why I'm so passionate about helping people who want to make more money and just need to tap into that inner potential that they have. I do this by bringing amazing guests and bringing content. And I'm really thrilled because I've had the awesome privilege of speaking with the world famous company branding expert, David Tyreman. David has helped to differentiate and develop brand identity for, you guys get this, and he's on Sales Mastery today, so I know we're in the right place. You're in the right place at the right time. But David's worked with companies like Polo Ralph Lauren, Nike, Banana Republic, Tommy Hilfiger, and Disney. He's been featured on CNN, the Wall Street Journal, tons of other TV shows, magazines, and newspapers. Today, his world-famous branding company works with startups and growing companies to help create brand identity, brand messaging, and brand strategy to connect emotionally with customers. I mean, David, isn't that where we need to be connecting with people, is on an emotional level?
It totally is, yes.
You know, I don't know that we necessarily understand what a brand is. Isn't the brand like my logo? Isn't it, the stuff I put on my stationery? Isn't that my brand?
Well, Anna, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really enjoy chatting with you, and I find when I chat with you that I look up and it's like, wait, 2 hours has gone by. We should have been recording this. So yeah, let's just start by, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask everybody who's listening, just think back to when you were a child, and as young as you can possibly remember, what brand or brands did you beg your parents for, or your grandparents, or save up your allowance to go and buy for yourself? Can you remember what kind of things you bought or asked for?
Usually it was cereal, or it was like cool toys, like all the Mattel stuff. You know, Barbies. Oh, I wanted every single Barbie. I wanted all her outfits. I wanted a Ken doll because I wanted to dress up a Ken doll. I just remember Barbie was such a big thing. And then, of course, Lucky Charms. Oh, could never get enough of Lucky Charms because I loved a little leprechaun that danced across the screen.
Right. So, and funny enough, I relate to a number of those brands myself. I remember Mattel. My sister, I'm from England, and we didn't have Barbie. We had Cindy, and my sister had the Cindy dolls, and she would be so excited about them that I was kind of like, well, I want to play with them too. We would fight over her Barbie dolls. But so everybody who's listening, think about the brands that you had to have. And I hope you're smiling, remembering some of the brands and why you had to have them. And I'm just going to tell you about one of mine. And by the way, I've just got to mention, I was giving a speech. I lived in Hawaii for a while with my partner, and I was giving a speech at the Honolulu Yacht Club. And I asked this question, and a lady on the front row, and I was really clear, when you were as young as you can remember, and she goes, Marlboro Lights. And I was like, no, you were really, really young, a little girl. And she just said, yeah, Marlboro Lights. So I was like, okay. People remember the brands that they wanted. Yeah. And so the brand that I loved and still do, you may never have heard of. It's big in Britain, and it's called Branston. It's Branston Pickle. And it's delicious. You can get it in the United States. I always have some in my house. You have it with salads. You have it with sandwiches. You have it with pies. You have it with cheese. You have it with all sorts of different meals. It's tangy and it's sweet, and it's really, I love it. And they had a jingle on TV, and it was, bring out the Branston. And so we would sit at the dinner table, and Mum would put dinner on the table, and we would sing, bring out the Branston. And so she'd go and get the Branston. Anyway, one day we sang that little jingle, and she's like, oh, we're out of Branston. So she called my dad, and she said, please bring some Branston with you as you come back from work. He said, sure. Well, he forgot, and he was nearly at the end of our road when he remembered that he was supposed to pick up the Branston, so we stopped at the little corner store, and they were out. So we bought the generic brand. And I still feel this feeling today. I remember him coming to the table and plopping this brown paper bag on the table, and I reached in. I couldn't wait to get that Branston, and it wasn't Branston. I was so disappointed. It might have been a cow pie. It was just the wrong thing. And so the point of me sharing this is that my story is just about a relish. You can go to certain stores and there's a whole aisle just of relishes. But I knew the exact relish that I had to have. Just like you knew you needed to have Lucky Charms, that you needed Barbie. Mm-hmm. So we've known since childhood, most people, consumers, the way you just asked me, what is a brand? To most people, the word brand can be replaced with the word type. What brand of car do you drive? What brand of soap detergent do you use? What brand of shoes do you buy? So for consumers, it really can mean, when we think about it, just what type of something. But to us, business owners, entrepreneurs, we have to look at it different. And what we have to realize, based on the story I just said, is that we've known since childhood that despite there being an ocean of choices, we knew that one brand we had to have. Mine was Branston. Yours was Lucky Charms. So therefore, by default, it's possible to be that brand that people just have to have. And so what goes into that? That's what we're going to be talking about today. What goes into creating a brand that people will tell their friends, I just have to work with Hannah, or I just have to have a Xerox machine, or I just have to use Apple. Whatever those choices are in an ocean of competition, that's what we're doing here, because competition is horrible. Yeah. It's overwhelming. Right. It's debilitating. So let's not have any. Let's stand out as the obvious only choice to our preferred market. And that's what this is about. And that's what I've built with my businesses. That's what I help do with my clients. We look at how do we really stand out as both unique and valuable. So truly in business, owning a brand means differentiating yourself so that you are unique and valuable to your chosen audience. That's it.
So differentiating yourself so that you are unique and valuable to your audience. And I have a confession to make right now. I bought your book. I had to buy your book. And by the way, if you want to read a good book, we're going to let you know about this book because it's an amazing, amazing book. But in your book, World Famous Company, oh no, it's not World Famous Company. I'm saying that because that's your
the book is called World Famous.
World Famous: How to Create a Kick-Ass Brand.
That's right.
And as you were talking, I was looking through some of the highlights that I have in the book. And one of the highlights says this: everybody wants to know a secret, right? I'm a black belt in martial arts. Everybody likes secrets. So the secret to your success, to your world-famous brand identity, rests wholly in the hearts and minds of your marketplace. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, it's bigger than, I mean, that's the differentiation. That's the value.
You know, I'm so glad you're bringing this up because the most important thing here, the people who are the least successful are the companies and individuals who say, when you say, who's your customer? If you hear someone say everybody, they are going to be the poorest.
Mm-hmm.
Because we cannot make everybody our customer. It's just, we have to be really clear who our intended audience is. And the more we can tightly define it, the better we can define it, the easier it is to communicate with it. If we think that, and let me just tell you a silly story.
Okay.
So my business, excuse me, I just need to cough. I've got a cold at the moment. Excuse me.
Not a problem.
My first business was called Propaganda. And we supplied the visual display, the visual branding merchandise that many major retailers use, like you mentioned, Polo, Ralph Lauren. If you walk into a Polo store, it would be the mountain bikes, it would be the dumbbells, it would be the old vintage Louis Vuitton luggage, it would be trophy cups, all the props and displays that Polo used to tell their brand story, we supplied. And excuse me, we used to have a party every year in our warehouse. We had a big 27,000 square foot warehouse, and we had offices there, and I even had a loft inside of it where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we would get the guys in the warehouse to build these crates, and we would have this room. It was called the party room, and we would have music pounding out of that room. We would have go-go boys and go-go girls dancing. We'd have a big smoke machine, a disco ball. It was just crazy. It was fantastic fun. But then through in the lounge area, we had all sorts of big bean bags and rugs and cushions, and waiters and waitresses serving appetizers and cocktails on silver trays. So we made it a really unique experience. Excuse me, sorry about that.
No problem.
One day I was in England visiting my family, and I didn't rent a car, and I was on a bus, and I was sitting behind these two ladies, and during the bus ride, I christened them Mrs. Prim and Mrs. Proper, because I couldn't help noticing that they had something to say about every person that got on or off the bus, and it wasn't nice. It was very judgmental. There were those types of lady who just judged everybody. And I remember thinking, wow, just imagine if I invited everybody to my party and Mrs. Prim and Mrs. Proper were coming. It's like, oh, well, wait, I don't want to offend them. Maybe we should get rid of the go-go boys and the go-go girls. Maybe we should turn the stereo down a bit. Maybe we should get rid of that smoke machine. Maybe we should not have too much alcohol. Maybe we should organize things differently. And before I knew it, I would have a party that was boring to my core customers, just to please or not offend anybody. So this is the same story about your market. If we try to please everybody, we tend to tone ourselves down, become a bit more conservative, maybe a bit more corporate. But what we're missing is that real connection with our true customers. So we really must know our customers well, because it's not just about selling a product or a service. We're having a relationship, and we need to know our customers so well. Just think of, in your life, the key people who are most important to you. It could be your wife, it could be your husband, it could be your boyfriend or girlfriend. When it comes to a birthday, if you know them well enough, you know what they want, and you certainly know what they don't want. And the same is true of your customer. So if you try to have everybody as your customer, you don't know what they want, because there's a whole mix of a massive range of people's wants and needs and frustrations and aspirations. So we've got to choose our group. And most of the time I see people trying to market to anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
And when you really look at the numbers that they need, they only need maybe 100 customers to do really, really well. But they're so busy trying to please everybody, they never get those 100 customers. So, and another thing, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here, because this subject is so important, and I cannot stress enough. I was speaking at an event one time, and I was speaking about creating a brand, But the person who was supposed to be speaking about marketing had some kind of problem and couldn't make it. So they desperately came to me and said, David, can you run a 3-hour workshop on marketing this afternoon? That's like, well, I'll give it a try. Because I've had a lot of marketing experience, I just wasn't ready to do a presentation. So I made it a very, almost like MTV Unplugged. I made it more of a discussion because I hadn't had time to prepare a 3-hour workshop. And I started off by introducing, after I'd done the introductions, asking, it was a room filled with entrepreneurs. They all owned their own business. And I said, hands up, who in this room feels uncomfortable marketing your services? And do you know what? I would say 75% of the hands went up.
Ooh.
And what I learned is that most people are afraid of their customer on some level or other.
Ooh.
And I'm here to say, if that's you, if you're thinking, oh no, I feel like that, don't worry, but embrace it, face it. Your job is to know your customers so well. And most of the time, we find as entrepreneurs that our favored customers are people just like us, with our own issues, our own problems. And when you think of the customers that you most enjoy working with, write down what is it about them that you really enjoy working with, and then seek out more like them. Let's not have a whole bunch of headaches dealing with customers that we don't like and that don't like us and that complain and cause us problems. Focus on the customers who you absolutely love doing business with. Focus on customers that you understand, you just get them. And you know what they like, because people need more than the products and services that you're selling. And that's the most important point. When I mastered that at Propaganda, let me assure you, we were broke. We fed ourselves with the generic brand of food on the bottom shelf at the supermarket. And I used to dream of the day I could nonchalantly pick up Heinz ketchup and things like that.
Wow.
And once we determined who exactly our customer was and aimed exactly at them, our business thrived. So getting clear about your customer, taking off those blinders, confronting our fear of our customer, and understanding you don't need a favor from any customers. You represent value to your customers. It can change your life for good, forever.
Wow. You know, it's really funny as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, how many times have we just been really focused on the product, the service? We just feel like we're the vehicle for the product or the service, when it's really about building a relationship with the customer, and not just in the sales conversation, but going, building up into it. I mean, again, I'm looking at your book and I'm thinking, you want to stand out as the obvious choice.
Yeah, you know something? Have you ever gone online to search out, I'm just going to make up an idea, like I was once looking for a high quality video camera, and I did a search for the camera I thought I wanted, and I got like 6 different prices from 6 different vendors. And the one I went with was not the cheapest because I didn't know who some of these vendors were. I'd never heard of them, and I was afraid to pay $2,000 to some outfit I'd never heard of. So Amazon solves that because of the faith and trust, because they've built a brand. So we need to understand it's not just about products or services. And that's why I've coined this quote that goes, a business without a brand is just a vendor, and vending is for machines. And so if it really was just about product or service, why would we need people? We would just have a world filled with vending machines. So it's more than vending. And in my business, if ever anyone refers to me as a vendor, I can't help it. I'll say, wait, stop, sorry. I'm not a vendor. And if you think I'm a vendor, you probably don't want to do business with me. I'm a brand. We're building a brand. We're here to deliver at least 11 out of 10 for you. We understand you. We understand your needs. We understand your problems. We understand your aspirations. So we're more than a vendor. Let me prove it to you. So I want everyone to have some knee jerks here that in order to start, you know what? Here's the quiz. Here's the question. What is the absolute number one, hands down, best way to stand out from the crowd? And that's the question. I'm not really posing it to you, Anna. I'm posing it to any person who's listening to this to ponder what is the absolute best way to stand out. And over all the years I've been in business, I've found the answer. And the answer is to never join the crowd in the first place. Don't join that crowd if you want to stand out from it. So if I'm going to a networking meeting, I'm never going to be the only way I would ever go to a networking meeting is if I was on stage, because then I'm standing out from the crowd. I would negotiate, find out what I need to do to be in front of that audience rather than mingling in it, being just like everybody else. So we have to find ways to never join that crowd if we want to stand out from it. Which brings me to a whole subject of the crazy things. And there's going to be some people listening thinking, oh no, this is me. The crazy things we do. I'm going to give you can I give you an example? Please, yes. I mean, I've probably done it. So when I first started out in business, we were on such a shoestring, and we were able to afford a computer, but we weren't, and we were able to afford a very inexpensive printer, and it didn't have that attachment that allows you to put envelopes through the printer. And we used to handwrite all our envelopes. We didn't have it wasn't even capable of putting, this is old days when you couldn't even put a sheet of labels through a printer. So we would handwrite all our envelopes, and I hated it. I used to think, oh no, people are they're gonna think I'm an amateur. I don't even have professional looking envelopes. This is terrible. So we've got to get some sales, and we've got to get that envelope attachment so that we can join that club of being professional in business. So we went on for several months. Finally, we were able to afford the envelope attachment. And you know what happened? The response rate to my marketing went down 72%. It went down 72% because I bought a envelope attachment and started printing my envelopes. Because guess what? We were sending handwritten letters to people, and they were like, who's this from? Who's this? Is this a friend? And they would open the envelope. But just a printed, professional-looking envelope didn't get opened. Never mind a callback. So we had we'd saved up money, we'd worried, and we'd spent time and resources in order to become invisible in our market. Wow. So oftentimes people, they're so excited to start their own business that finally they've started, and then the next thing that they do by accident is start looking over their shoulder saying, well, how are things done in this industry? How are things done? And then emulating others in their industry. After you've listened to this show, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to start going through this world realizing, oh, look, this spa I go to is just like 10 other spas I've been to. I don't even know what differentiates it. This realtor is just like 10,000 realtors I've met. They all dress the same. They talk the same. They have the same looking cards and brochures and logos and speak. It's just a nightmare that people think they have to behave like others in their group. We have to stand out. We have to behave differently. And that's the companies I love showcasing and I love helping are the ones who say, yes, that's what we want to do. We want to stand apart from others in this market. And I've worked with escrow companies even in a market where all escrow companies tend to be the same. No one even thinks about choosing. They just go to the one they're told. Not necessarily. We can really, whatever it is you do, you can find a way of standing apart and connecting emotionally with the customers you choose to do business with.
Wow. And I'm listening and I'm thinking, so even in, this really requires some thought and requires some real research, connecting with your customers, finding out what really is something that they're missing in their life that you can provide without being like everybody else.
Let's simplify it, because yes, it can seem a little overwhelming when we start thinking about all the things that we do that might need changing. So I want to just share a really important distinction here. It's the distinction between branding and brand DNA. And if you're not driving, I recommend you grab a piece of paper and a pen, because this is going to really help your business. So I'm going to start with branding first, because we're all very familiar with branding. Branding is the packaging on products we buy. So if you open your fridge and you see Heinz ketchup, that's branding. If you see Hellmann's mayonnaise, that's branding. Websites are branding. Social media is branding.
Mm-hmm.
The branding is billboards that you see. It's advertising on the radio and television. So branding is everywhere. And the majority of businesses, in fact, about 98% of businesses, jump into their branding solutions before they've gotten absolutely clear about their brand DNA, their brand identity. So that's why there's so much really crappy branding that doesn't resonate with you, branding that doesn't connect. All those emails you get every day, all those texts you get trying to sell stuff that aren't connecting with you. Right. So if we were to take another piece of paper, draw a circle, a big circle that fills the sheet, and just draw it like it's a cartwheel. So it's a circle with a hub and spokes. And I want you to imagine that everything outside of that cartwheel is the world, your market, your audience. And everything inside the wheel is your business. So each of the spokes represent a brand touch point that you use. One of them could be your website, one could be your social media, one could even be your message on your voicemail. Another could be social media, your logo, you name it. Some people do trade shows, so it would be your trade show booth. Some people have a brick and mortar store, so one of them would be your store, etc., etc. And in the hub, in the very center, is where we start writing down the information that's key to your brand. Who are you? Why are you in business? What's your point of view? What do you stand for? What do you care about? What's the personality of your brand? So there's a number of ways we can look at it, and that can inspire our brand messaging and brand communication, so that when we go to those brand touch points, instead of just doing any old crap that everyone else is doing, we can do something unique that inspires our customer. I mean, I even got written up in the newspaper. They phoned us up and they said, listen, guys, we don't actually want to talk to anyone. We just want to listen to your message on hold because we heard it was really funny. And so we put them on hold. And they wrote a story about us just because of our message on hold, because it was really, really funny. And it's an opportunity to inspire your customer. Every single place your business touches the world is an opportunity to inspire, whereas most companies just treat it like a checklist. Okay, we've got our website done. Okay, we've got hi, I'm either on the phone or away from my desk on the voicemail, and just going on through and through the list, doing stuff that's expected, that doesn't provoke thought, doesn't make people stop, doesn't make people remember. They just get on with their day. So, and then people wonder why they're not getting enough business. And I think of it like, imagine you're bolting on camouflage and saying, how come no one can see me?
Yeah. You know, David, we, like you said at the very beginning, you and I just enjoy being together. And I love listening to what you have to say, because You are inspiring. You are unique. You are, and you inspire me, and I know you're inspiring our listening audience. And we're actually coming to the end of today's episode. So, and I have a ton more questions for you. So we obviously have to have you back.
Okay.
Really quick, how can people get in touch with you? Somebody who is just ready to really rock it when it comes to making an impact, standing out, being the one people want to hear.
Well, thank you, Anna. The first thing I'm going to say in answering that is I've found, as being from Britain, sometimes people, and of course, yes, I've worked with companies like Ralph Lauren, Nike, and big names. And oftentimes people equate those names and my accent, and they think, oh, well, we're not going to contact him. It's going to be too expensive. So I just want everyone, if you really want to build a kick-ass brand, my business is designed to help entrepreneurs. It's designed to help startups, as well as we work with some big companies too. But I was that guy with a suitcase who came to America with nothing. And I knew once I got started that one day, if I make it, I want to have programs and help for people just like me who really want to build a brand but just need to know the steps. So don't hold back. If you don't ask, the answer's always no. And that's true in sales. So don't be afraid to go to my website. It's worldfamouscompany.com. You can send me an email through there, or just send me an email, david@worldfamouscompany.com, and find out how we can help you, because we've got some really great programs and the book and consulting to help you make sure your brand stands out and connects with customers on an emotional level. And that's the end of my infomercial.
There you go. There you go. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us on Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. I'm your host, Anna Scheller, here to help you unleash your power. And obviously, we want to help you stand out so that you attract the right customers for what you do to make a difference in the world. Thank you for joining me. You can be with me every single Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, for more of Sales Mastery. Welcome to Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. I'm your host, Anna Scheller, and it is my mission to help you unleash your power so that you can make more money, make more sales, and live the life of your dreams. You can find me at annascheller.com. That's Anna with two N's, Scheller, SCHELLER.com. Learn more about me, engage with me there, and let's get to know you better. Now, today we've brought back to Sales Mastery David Tyreman. David, thank you for coming back to Sales Mastery.
It's my pleasure. It's great to be back.
David is a world-class brander, and not the kind that you use for cattle. He's someone who helps to differentiate and develop brand identities, and he's done it with some of the best-known companies in the world, like Polo Ralph Lauren, Nike, the Just Do It company, Banana Republic, Tommy Hilfiger, and Disney. He's been featured on CNN and a number of publications and radio shows, and of course, Sales Mastery Now. Today, his world-famous branding company works with startups, which is one of the reasons I love having David on the show, and growing companies to help create brand identity, brand messaging, and brand strategy to connect emotionally with customers. In other words, to help you stand out so that you're the only choice they want to consider. He lives in Las Vegas, Nevada with his partner, and you can find him at www.worldfamouscompany.com. Again, David, I am so glad that you joined us again.
It's whenever you ask me, Anna, I'm going to be there.
Oh, you're wonderful. Well, it's delightful having you. Now, in the last show, we talked a lot about what a brand is. We talked a lot about the differentiation. But, how did you get into this business?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you the slightly long but short version.
Okay.
This is something I say often, is that nobody was born knowing how to create a brand. It's something we learn. And so I come on vacation to California, actually, with a friend from work when I was very young, in my 20s, early 20s. And we had one of those epiphany moments. I remember saying, you know what, I hate my job. I want to do something in America or with America. And he's like, let's do it. And so we were in Santa Barbara at the time, and we went down State Street and we saw lots of antique stores. So we figured that people were selling antiques for a good price. England has lots of antiques. So we thought, well, let's bring some vintage things and antiques from England. And our big idea was to sell those things the way people sell Tupperware. So we would do antique parties in people's homes. And it was a huge failure. Nobody bought anything. They would eat and drink the wine and then look at our price tags and then be like, oh, I've got to go. And after 6 months, and we came here we only had $5,000 on a small amount of inventory. We started this thing just on fumes, really. We just wanted an adventure. And so we sat there. It was a Tuesday. We were living in Huntington Beach, and we were down to our last $20 in the whole world. And we had something worse than bad credit. We had no credit, no friendly bank manager, no credit cards, no overdraft facility. That $20 was our last money in the whole world. And we sat staring at it. And after a while, I looked at him and I said, do you have any ideas? He said, no. Do you? And I said, well, it's Tuesday, and there's that bar on Main Street, and they sell all the beer you can drink on Tuesday nights for $7. And they also do that nachos and cheese thing for $2.99. Let's go out. And off we went. We were there as they opened. I remember slapping that $20 on the bar and ordering the beer and the nachos. And we just started talking. We talked and talked and talked. We talked about all the people who tried to help us, and there'd been a few. And we talked about all the people who tried to rip us off, and there'd been a lot, and some of them had succeeded. We talked about all of our journey, our adventure, from hatching the idea to planning it in England, to coming over here to the States, to all the things that happened. And after a while, I told the bartender, I said, you know what? We just spent our last 20 in the whole world in your bar. And she said, why? This bar's crap. And I was like, well, it's the one we could afford. She goes, well, okay, I'm going to buy you some shots. So she started pouring shots for us, and she started sending over some appetizers. And the next thing we knew, she was telling the other bar staff, and they were gathering around and asking us questions, and they were buying us drinks, and they were buying us. We were just having a banquet, really. We were having a great time. Wow. And over the evening, several locals joined us, and we're all chatting, and they're asking us questions, and we're having a great time telling them our stories. At the end of the night, I remember I cried because the staff had been so awesome, and I couldn't tip them. And the girl who talked to us mostly, she turned to me, she goes, listen, look around this bar. And I looked around, she goes, everybody's broke, but you're having an amazing adventure. We've just been stuck in here, working here. So I wish I could switch places. Your life sounds fantastic. I remember thinking, wow, she's right. She's like, you only fail if you quit.
Yes.
And I remember, and then down the bar, there was a man who'd been very quiet all night. I'd seen him, and he was listening. I knew. Well, he owned a limousine company, and he drove us home that night in the back of a brand spanking new limousine. I just remember being there thinking, wow, America's awesome. I'm broke. I'm flat broke, and look how I'm driving home in the back of a limousine. I wish people could see. Anyway, the next morning was the day I'd been dreading, waking up penniless. But the funny thing is, I felt relieved. Finally, it was here. Mm-hmm. And then I next felt, I 2 ears, 2 eyes, and nose. I'm alive. I'm just broke. And I felt hope. I suddenly felt energized. And I got up and I went to the kitchen, and there was my business partner, and he literally looked like he'd been beaten up. He looked like a broken man. And I said, you know something? If you want to go back, I'll forgive you. You can go. Anyone will forgive you. After all we've been through and after all that's gone wrong, go if that's what you want to do. But I've just realized today that I'm not going back. I cannot go back saying I failed. I've got to I'm going to make this work, and I have no clue how. And he looked at me and he goes, okay, I'll stay. And so now I'm going to fast forward the tape, because 7 years later, we'd moved to San Francisco. We owned a 27,000 square foot warehouse, live work. We were doing business with some of the best known brands on the planet: Polo Ralph Lauren, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, Nordstrom, Macy's. I mean, the list went on. And we were making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And we were getting so much attention from the media. We were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, on CNN. And it blew my mind how well our company did. And so what happened is that we realized those antique parties were not working.
You think?
I know, it didn't take a rocket scientist. It's like, oh, do you have any money? No. So we were like, well, at least we've got some inventory. Where can we sell it? And we went walking around South Coast Plaza and noticing all the different stores that used the type of things we had in their window and in-store displays. And we started walking into those stores. We got marched out of quite a few. But I developed persistence. I was not going home. I was going to make it successful. Yeah. And I didn't know how to sell. We would sit on the phone all day long, calling stores, retailers. We'd go into the stores, and some of the nicer people would give us a clue. Call this person. Here's a business card. Try this number. Here's our corporate number. And we would slowly find people who needed what we had.
Right.
And that's how we started. I have many, many more stories of what happened along the way. But we found our niche. We found our best market. We discovered there were trade shows for this market. There were sales reps that work in this market. We didn't know anything. We discovered it all. But the most important thing along the way, we realized that most companies were behaving like vendors, focusing on their products and services. And I think maybe by historical accident, by fluke of luck, I was so passionate about what we were doing, I just would grimace if someone said, well, we'll put you on our vendor list. I'm like, I'm not a vendor. I'm David.
Right.
And I just really got clear that we needed to build relationships. If people just came and said, how much is this, how much is that, and they would buy something, that was fine. We put some money in the bank. But I wanted to build relationships with people.
Yeah.
I wanted them to understand, yes, you can buy these things today, but guess what? We understand what you're trying to do. We understand you're not. I mean, it took me a few years, I'm going to tell you. At first, I thought I was an antique dealer. I was selling antiques. But once I realized they're not buying antiques, they're buying differentiation. That's when I realized, hang on, I'm talking to the wrong sales points. I need to talk about their story, their brand, their message. So I started learning about brands and realizing I had a lot to say myself. So that's what we started doing. And on the subject of branding, we had some very unique branding solutions that got us a lot of attention. And that's where the secret is, because I was sat in a speech once and there was a guy on stage saying, if you want to build a brand, you need at least $500 million. And I'm like, that is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard, because we built a brand. My company was famous in our market. And this is the secret. Sometimes when people hear world famous company, I had a lady bring her daughter to my trade show booth saying, she wants to be the next Britney Spears. I'm like, well, good luck, but that's not what we do. We help companies become famous in their market to their intended audience. We can't guarantee you'll be a household name unless you really do have a budget for marketing and promotion, but you can build your brand without huge resources of funds. It's more about a commitment to do it rather than I'm rich, I can do it. So don't be afraid if you are, whatever it is you do, if you want to stand apart and connect with your customers, the best thing you can do is create a brand. And having a brand is really, it just feels good. It really helps because you end up having something unique to say instead of, you know, when you go to a party and people say, what do you do? Oh, I'm an insurance person. It's just like, no, you would have something better to say than that to help you stand apart and connect emotionally instead of just sounding like one of the masses.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's about differentiation. And you said something that you had solutions that get people's attention. And I appreciate the fact that you don't need tons of money for marketing. I mean, it's really about the connection that you make with your target market. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about that branding wheel, once we realized what our brand was all about, I mentioned the voicemail message, the message on hold.
Yes.
And it came up because we were dealing with Polo, and Polo isn't just one entity. It's Polo Men's, Polo Women's, Polo Factory, Polo Sport, and then we had Polo Japan and Polo Europe. There's lots and lots of Polo departments, and I was in charge of the Polo account. And my assistant came in one day, and she's like, David, we've got a problem because people get really upset that I'm putting them on hold, but we can't hang up on Polo to speak to Polo. There's only one David. So we realized people didn't like being put on hold. And then we have a room called the party room, very specifically planned that way. In my life, I've been to many, many, many boardrooms in companies, attorneys, you name it. And I've often turned and said, what happens in a boardroom? We get bored. So we're going to have a party room. We're going to have a room where we can be creative. And our party room was really unique. It was a dance floor. You would press a button and a coffee-sized table would rise up out of the middle of the dance floor. We were sat around it on beanbags. There was not big leather chairs. We had a disco ball, a bar, a screen that came down, a 16-foot screen so we could project videos. Mm-hmm. It was a really cool room. And you never forgot you'd been in that room because we were in the business of differentiation. And the interesting thing is when you apply, once you know your brand and you know what you're about and what you're trying to say, and you certainly know you're not trying to emulate everybody else, solutions can literally be 10 cents on the dollar. Mm. I've been to so many boardrooms where the president said, we really invested in this mahogany. We had to have the best mahogany than everybody else. And some boardrooms have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's oil paintings of important men with their chin on their fist and, big, huge overstuffed leather chairs and beautiful big tables. And I can't remember any one of them apart from another. They all blur together.
The same.
Yet, if you came to a business where you were sitting on a beanbag and saw a table rising from the middle of the floor, you don't forget that.
No, you don't.
Shoulders above everybody else, and we're only making them sit on a beanbag, not a $1,000 leather reclining chair. So it's there are many ways to differentiate. So going back to the voicemail message on hold, we realized so many companies, they put you on hold and it's one of those corporate, well, guess what, we've got a discount on this month. And people do not, when they're pissed off that they've been put on hold, the last thing they want to hear is advertising of your goods and services. So now at the time, I had this massive shower. It was filled with plants and there were shower heads all over the place. So we got like all of our office staff and we all went into my shower and turned all the shower heads on and recorded a message pretending that we were all in the shower together, getting clean, ready for the next day. And it was just ad lib. It was just silly. It was, and I can't play it for you. I don't have the tape, but it was really funny. When it was, do you remember when it was the year 2000, Y2K, and they thought all the computers were going to implode? We did a recording pretending we knew what we were talking about when we clearly didn't know what we were talking about. And we just did silly recordings like that. And I could be guaranteed when I put someone on hold, if I kept them on hold for 30 seconds and picked up the phone, they would always be laughing. And they'd always be like, you guys are great. I love doing business with you guys. That was great, guys. You know, that every single brand touch point is an opportunity to inspire, to make people happy that they do business with you, reminded that, wow, I like doing business with this company. They think about things. They do it different. People really love that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know, we're again having such a great time. There are a couple more points. We're just a little over halfway done, and there's a couple more things I think our listening audience really would love to hear from your perspective. Because I think we fall into this, you know, just because we just do. We get busy or whatever. But you talk a lot about brand myths. Brand myths. So
Yes.
What would you say are, give me two of the most common brand myths.
Well, the biggest brand myth is when somebody spends money having a logo designed and thinks then that they have a brand. I've had so many people come up to me saying, look, I have a brand. Look, it's my logo. And a logo is not a brand. A logo is a logo. And I want you to think of a logo. Let's say I live in Las Vegas. Let's say you were in Los Angeles and you wanted to drive to Las Vegas. I know we all have navigation now, but it always helps when you see that street sign, that sign on the freeway saying Las Vegas, 89 miles. Like, great, I'm on the right road. That is what a logo is really for, so that you can spot that you're in the right place. But first you need to know what the logo is. So something comes before the logo. It normally is someone telling you about the company or researching and finding it. And then you become familiar with the logo. But the logo is not your brand, and don't be fooled into thinking it is. I once had a client phoned me up who just started working with us. We hadn't really done any work yet. And he called me up and he goes, David, I just got a quote for $3,800 for a logo. Should I do it? And I said, well, did they ask you who your customers are? He goes, no. I said, did they ask you what you represent and what you stand for? He goes, no. I said, well, it sounds like they're trying to sell you a picture. And I can save you $100. I'll sell you a picture for $3,700. How about that? So the thing is, and then sometimes people come and say, well, you know, our family colors are blue and green, and my children love this dog, so we put the dog in there. And they put all these things into their logo that have got nothing to do with their customer.
Oh, wow.
With what they are representing. One of my favorite brands is Apple, and they know what they mean, and so do we about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it's just a sign. Oh, look, there's the Apple Store. Great, we're in the right place. We need to know what we stand for, what we mean. A brand is about the relationship. A brand is about what makes us differentiated, unique, and valuable. So simply having a logo is not enough. And it reminds me of a speech I gave once in Los Angeles. And after the presentation, a girl called Nancy, she was literally having hysterics. She was bawling her eyes out, and she came running up to me. I remember thinking, what on earth have I said in this speech that would have offended her? But I hadn't offended her. She told me she'd just spent $30,000 on what I would call it a corporate identity. It was a logo it was like a swirl. She had gray brochures, gray business cards, gray pens. She apparently had a website made and a bunch of stuff done. But she realized during the speech That wasn't her. That was just it just looked neat because everything matched, but it wasn't a brand. It was just a corporate package that didn't communicate anything other than, here's a corporate package. So she knew she'd wasted $30,000. She knew she had. That's why she was so upset.
Wow.
So we have to, and you know, sometimes if people say to me, well, I have a logo, I have a brand, look, here's my logo. I'll say, okay, tell me about your brand. And they can't because they realize, well, it's a picture. Right. So what's good is that to me? And imagine from my point of view as the speaker here, 1,000 people in the audience, if all of them held their business card up to show me their logo at once, what good is that? I'm not going to remember them. I might not even remember one of them. So we're in this world where we're presented with marketing messages thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times a week. The ones that resonate are the ones that touch us emotionally. So we have to start if you go back to that diagram of that cartwheel, people start the absolute 100% wrong way around. They start trying to solve their branding needs, website, logo, brochure, videos, social media. They're going around the outside of that wheel without ever thinking about what fuels that thinking. What's the hub? What's the DNA of my brand? What are we really about? Because if we don't get that clear, we will absolutely become just like any other generic company selling what we sell, because we don't have an identity of our own. We don't have a point of view or passion that's being displayed. So it's absolutely vital to get your brand identity clear. And it's a process. It's fun, actually. It's great fun. You know how many times I have people crying? And I don't mean that I mean to people, but crying with happiness that they finally have something to say, a message, something that differentiates them, something that really empowers their team. Getting your brand clear can be very powerful for you, your employees, and your customers. So it adds value every which way you look at it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. And let's move on to a couple of the no-nos. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes. So just clearly, I mean, obviously, this is not the best conversation we have.
I'm going to tell just the silliest of stories. And I do this when I'm speaking as well, because when you think about your business and you think about every single place where your business touches the world, where you might inspire a customer, I'm going to use your voicemail because it's the simplest thing, and everybody who listens to this has access to their voicemail and can change the message if they wanted to. And I joke and I say, you know, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but if you have a voicemail message that says something like, I'm either on the phone or away from my desk, here's my question.
So differentiating.
Right. And also, in all the years that you've had that voicemail message, has anyone ever said, which one was it? It's been driving me crazy. Were you on the phone or away from your desk? Which one? It's never happened. So my challenge is to, first of all, have a think about, what are you really about? What's important to you? What's valuable to what's your business? What made you start it? And change your voicemail message. You don't have to be funny. If you want to be funny, great. But have a message. The best measure is if people respond and say, I love that message. Or they give you, if you brighten someone's day, tell them something, and make sure your voicemail message is short, not long. People get really frustrated waiting through long messages. But a short message that is uplifting, clever, funny, or smart, or whatever, and just see the type of response you get and how you change people's tone, how you change. I mean, imagine a stranger calls out of the blue and they hear a really unique message, they can be like, God, I want to hear back from them. They were different. That was good. I like that. So everywhere your business touches the world is an opportunity to inspire your market. And I want you to look at all of those places and see you have an opportunity to really stand out. But remember, step one is to get clear about your brand DNA. And that's what we really help people with. First the brand DNA and then branding solutions.
Wow. Well, David, again, we've done this before on the other show, but I really, really want people to get in touch with you, because I know I'm doing that. And I know that the things that you and I have talked about would help a lot of people. So how do they get in touch with you so that they can discover their brand DNA, find those branding solutions, stand out, and become the one and only solution that their customers will ever need, ever want?
Thank you for that. I'm going to say the same as I said when the last time we were on this show together, because sometimes people hear, oh wow, he worked with Polo and he's worked with Nike and he's got that English accent, and they project that, well, it's going to be really expensive. I'm not going to check that out. It's too much money. So please don't assume that my company is already too much money before you've even found out, because my business was designed. I came to this country with a suitcase. I got help from people like Anthony Robbins. And I remember thinking, one day when I've made it, I want to help people who just need to know the steps. So we've got great programs. The book is really helpful. So just reach out, and we'll have a chat. And it's no skin off your nose, just to find out how we can help you create a kick-ass brand. So you can do that two ways. You can go to my website, which is worldfamouscompany.com. Or you can just drop me an email at david@worldfamouscompany.com, and that's it.
And ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you that the David that is on this show is the David you're going to get. I mean, he's warm, he's fun. I'm really enjoying getting to know David. But more importantly, if you really, really want to stand out, if you don't want to be a cookie cutter in your industry, you really need to talk to David. You really need to get that insight so that, you don't have to eat the generic on the bottom shelf. You can get the Heinz ketchup. You can do what you want to do. You can live a life. You don't have to be always worried about where the money is going to come from, but rather you can enjoy your life and enjoy connecting with the people who you have built your business to serve. And so, again, David, thank you so much for joining me on Sales Mastery, for the tremendous lessons that you share with our audience here. You're just a master at what you do.
Thank you, Anna. It's been a pleasure.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, the time always flies when we have these magnificent guests like David. But I do want you to connect with me at annascheller.com. That's Anna with two N's, Scheller, Scheller. And join me again next week on Sales Mastery on the Amazing Women of Power radio station, 10:30 Central Time. Make it a great day.